So I've talked a lot about how conservatives are not MAGA. MAGA is a populist movement. Conservatives are something different. And there's a real rift here between these two groups. And there's a rift between the conservative rank and file and the elite MAGA kind of crowd. And David Brooks hits on it. Now, he wasn't trying to talk about this necessarily. He was just part of how the video was how the elite rigged society and why it's falling apart. And he was talking about a few different points, but he gets to this point and he explains things beautifully. So let's listen to what he has to say.
Some people think Donald Trump is a populist. Donald Trump and Elon Musk went to the University of Pennsylvania and Ivy League school and became billionaires. J.D. Vance went to Yale. Pete Hegseth went to Princeton and Yale. Stephen Miller went to Duke. Fox News types like Laura Ingraham went to Dartmouth. And they represent the educated elite. And the key factor of the educated elite is that they're not pro-conservative, they're anti-left.
Now, that's a real fine distinction, but it's an important distinction because as a conservative, I value certain institutions. I value tradition, society, culture, trying to keep the best of that. That's what you're trying to protect. As anti-left, you're trying to tear down those very same things if the left controls them. And that's what's motivating. It's a really fine distinction, but it's what's motivating what you're seeing in the Trump administration. And it's very different. And this applies to even things like Ukraine, because we look at this and go, well, of course, why wouldn't you support a democratic state against an authoritarian takeover by its neighbor? Like, what would Reagan do, right? It's very different.
They don't have a positive vision, a conservative vision for society. They just want to destroy the institutions that the left now dominates.
Now, that's a little oversimplistic, but I think that there is something really valid about that distinction.
And this means, in the first place, they're astoundingly incompetent. I have a lot of sympathy with what drove people to vote for Trump, but I'm telling you, as someone who's on the front row to what's happening, do not hitch your wagon to that star. Thank you. You're supposed to boo. Pete Hegseth gave away our bargaining chips with Putin before we even had negotiations.
Yeah, that's a really weird thing. Like, why would you do that? Unless you're not really worried about conserving the best, if you're just worried about destroying the status quo as it is, which is what is happening.
Elon Musk has 25-year-olds firing people who are controlling our nuclear codes. It's like Sam Bankman-Fried got control of our nuclear arsenal. Second, elite narcissism causes them to eviscerate every belief system they touch. Conservatives believe in healthy societies are built on healthy institutions. They're
healthy institutions, healthy family, going to church, healthy institutions where the government is strong but limited, right? Where these things function. That's different than what those in power, even if they're Republican, are thinking or doing. Like, let's just destroy the system.
Conservatives believe in steady and gradual change, Edmund Burke, their disruption. Conservatives believe in constitutional government. Donald Trump says, I alone can fix this. Conservatives believe in moral norms. They're destroying moral norms. The other belief system that they are destroying is Judeo-Christian faith. Judeo-Christian faith is based on service to the poor, service to the immigrant, service to the stranger.
So you're seeing on many different levels here that the leaders of the Republican Party are somehow at odds with at least the conservative base. Now, that might not be the same as the progressive base, who I think the progressive base actually does want to punch the system in the nose. I think there's no question about that. But these are very different groups, and that helps you understand where conservatives are coming from when conservatives are like, hey, we should be supporting Ukraine. Well, they're a much quieter voice comparatively because the MAGA is so loud.
Yeah, South Africa throughout the 1990s and 2000s, and I watched people die of AIDS. Then I went back with my friend Mike Gerson, and I saw those 25 million lives saved. I saw people living lives of dignity. And so what's the first thing Donald Trump did? He eviscerated that program. My friends in America are conservative evangelicals in government who want to fight sex trafficking, poverty. They want to preserve national security. Donald Trump is declaring.
Yeah, so that's me. I could raise my hand on each of these. Yep. We want to stop these things, right? But that's not the same thing as somebody who wants to tear down the system. So if you're watching as these, like, so for example, we're talking about the USAID. I was saying, like, wholesale tearing it apart. No, take a scalpel to the things that you think that ought not be there, but that's different than just ripping the system down, or destroying NATO, or getting out of NATO, or whatever it is. So hopefully that helps you have a little extra context about how a conservative thinks, as opposed to how the populist elite types that are running the system right now think about that, even if they're all called Republicans. All right, tell me what you thought about that. Put that in the comments below. Thank you for your time, the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you to David Brooks for bringing this forward, because that actually helps us understand some things, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.